On day 101, I was a giant armored Skibidi toilet. All around me was my army of smaller toilets, destroying the enemy forces with our powerful song. Just then, the TV woman arrived with more TV forces to back her up.
We're taking back this war.
Her screen lit up bright orange and sent a wave of energy in my direction. Using her powers, she shrunk me back down into a normal Skibidi toilet. Oh no! I'm completely defenseless! Things got worse when a Titan Mecha Cameraman revealed himself on the battlefield. He began to blast away my army with his massive arsenal of weapons. His Gatling gun rained down fire on any toilets within range, while the cannon on his chest was able to target entire groups at once. What remained of my army began to swarm him. The helicopter Skibidi toilets used their flight and reach to try to attack higher on the Titan while the regular toilets went for his feet. The Mecha Cameraman was so massive though that their attacks weren't doing much harm despite their advantage in numbers. He stopped, shot, and blasted them to smithereens. No! My men didn't stand a chance against the Mecha Cameraman. It was clear that the Skibidi toilets were now losing this war. With my army gone, the Mecha Cameraman set his sights on me, and I was forced to run for my life. On day 102, I was being pursued by the all-powerful Mecha Cameraman and his camera army. He fired down explosive projectiles from the sky above as I tried to evade each of his attacks. I turned to the streets of the city, but every corner I went down, waves of his men were waiting for me. His camera feed is tracking my every move! I couldn't run forever, but I needed a weapon if I wanted a chance to defend myself. Just then, I spotted a porta potty and had an idea. I climbed into the box and camouflaged as part of the room. I waited patiently for one of the foolish cameramen to walk inside and took my moment to strike. I popped my head out and killed the camera with a surprise attack. Upon his death, he dropped a machine gun. Now this is more like it! Just then, the porta potty was blasted apart. The camera feed had given away my location and I was faced with the entire camera army. Bring it on! On day 103, I was in the middle of a heated battle with the cameramen. Armed with my new machine gun, I was able to blast through the army while I rejoiced in my Skibidi Toilet song. However, even with this new weapon, their numbers were crushing. I fought with all my might until a new threat emerged. Treads rolled towards my direction, revealing a giant Tank Cameraman. What is that thing?
Eliminate toilet threat.
The tank fired its weapons onto me, dealing loads of damage. I knew this was no ordinary camera. I tried to retaliate with my machine gun, but its bullets were completely ineffective on the tank's armored body. This is impossible! The tank began to charge a massive amount of energy. I knew a big attack was coming, so I ducked into my toilet. I endured the blast, but it demolished the floor beneath me, causing me to fall into the darkness below. On days 104 through 106, I landed inside of the waters of the city's sewer system. I looked around and was soon followed by the TV woman's head. I ducked behind cover as she began searching for me. They're even monitoring the sewers for me? I can't let my guard down. Next to me, I noticed a plunger I could use to help defend myself. I picked it up and began traversing the sewers. I stealthed through the wet passage of the sewers while the TV woman's head monitored my surroundings. I had a few close calls, but I managed to slip my way deeper inside. Eventually, I found another one of my toilet allies staring at the wall. Thank goodness! Someone else just like me! To my horror, this wasn't an ordinary toilet. He had transformed into a zombie. The area flooded with more like him, and I braced myself for the impending doom. On days 107 through 109, I was fighting off my zombie brothers. I couldn't let them get too close to me, otherwise I was gonna risk getting bitten. Instead, I used my machine gun to blast them away and keep them at bay until I ran out of ammo. I was forced to use my melee weapon and bash the toilets with a plunger I found. Even so, their numbers were greater than I could have imagined. My plunger weapon was doing the trick, until out of nowhere an even bigger horde of zombified toilets swarmed me. The toilets were practically falling over one another to whack me. I could only barely keep them away, but I had little else to do in this situation. I tried my best to keep them all in sight, but there were too many of them and I was getting ambushed. I had let my guard down and was bitten by one of the zombies. Ow! My body felt heavy and a wave of nausea hit me. If I didn't act fast, I was gonna turn into a zombie just like them. I need to find a cure. I ran for my life. But when I took a wrong turn, I found the TV woman's head waiting for me.
Found you!
On days 110 through 111, I was about to be scorched by the power of the TV woman, when out of nowhere, a tiny Skibidi Toilet Spider hopped in to help me, catching the TV woman off guard and disorienting her.
Follow me!
I followed behind my miniature ally and jumped through a pipe after him. When we arrived on the other side, I found myself in a strange laboratory. There, Skibidi toilets were locked in cages and were being used in horrible experiments. What's going on here?
The cameraman forces have started to turn our own men on us with a zombie serum.
Suddenly, a strong surge of pain hit me like a ton of bricks. My bite from the previous battle was gonna make me turn soon. The TV woman walked into the room.
Release test subject 2B.
The room trembled, and down from the ceiling dropped a modded zombie Skibidi toilet.
Have fun dealing with him.
The TV woman exited, and the zombie toilet ran at us with his saw blade spinning. On days 112 through 115, I was being attacked by the modded zombie toilet. The zombie Skibidi inched towards me, but I didn't want to hurt it. He was once a normal Skibidi after all. I dodged the first few attacks, but he was absolutely relentless, swiping back and forth with his whirring saw blade. Finally, I began to fight back. Despite his massively increased strength, his attacks were a lot easier to predict. Every single opening the modded zombie toilet left, I took advantage of with a well-placed strike. It was incredibly powerful, and I wasn't sure how much longer I was going to be able to hold on.
Hang in there, Max.
The Mini Spider toilet jumped onto the modded zombie and began to mind control him. He held him still, giving me an opening to land the finishing blow.
Kill him, now!
But if I do, you'll die too!
It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for the war!
I knew the mini toilet was right. With a heavy heart, I dealt the final blow and took out the modded zombie Skibidi toilet along with my miniature spider ally. I'm sorry, friend. Upon their death, the zombie dropped the cure I needed along with a laser gun. I grabbed them both and ran towards the exit of the facility. But as soon as I made my escape to the surface, the Tank Cameraman rolled up to stop me. On days 116 through 118, I was attacked by the Tank Cameraman, causing me to drop the zombie serum cure I needed. My foe grabbed it and he continued forward with his attacks. Aside from the Mecha Cameraman, this was my toughest foe so far, but I couldn't let all of those toilets fall in vain. But I was so weak from my last encounter. I was in little shape to fight. His rain of bullet fire was incredibly hard to dodge. If I let the Tank Cameraman land more than a single hit on me, I was done for. My journey would end here and now. Our fight took us across the bridge where his missiles set the forest ablaze. Even with my willpower, I wasn't strong enough to win this battle with brute force. Time for Plan B. I took a chance and made a break for a nearby power station, leading the Tank Cameraman in pursuit. Hey, Bolt Brain, come and get me!
Eliminate toilet threat.
The tank charged full speed at me, and I jumped out of the way at the very last moment. The tank collided with the high voltage power lines, shocking his systems and dropping the very cure I was seeking. Yoink! I chugged down the potion and restored myself to full health, giving me the second wind I needed to keep fighting. I continued my onslaught on the Tank Cameraman until finally he succumbed to my power. Upon his death, he dropped a piece of scrap which I went to claim for myself. However, once I touched it, my body transformed. My porcelain shell turned into armor, and I gained tank wheels to roll over terrain. I was now a Tank Skibidi toilet with 15 hearts. This is amazing! I didn't have long to celebrate as I heard the sound of approaching footsteps. Using my new wheels, I sped off before anyone else came looking for me. On days 119 through 121, I arrived back in the city to find the Titan Cameraman looming over me. Oh no! They already found me! The Titan Cameraman powered up his artillery and fired down onto me with his lasers. I maneuvered as best as I could, and my increased defenses blocked tons of damage. The two of us returned fire at one another. I used my massive bomb launcher to soften up his armor. The Titan Cameraman's lasers were deadly and destructive, so much so that I could only ride through a sea of flames. I held on, confident I might be able to win this thing. Suddenly, camera tank reinforcements came to his aid. I tried to blast them away, but the overwhelming number of them was too much for me to handle. One of the tanks managed to come to the Titan's side and use an upgrade that caused the Titan Cameraman to transform. His armor grew sturdier, and his shield transformed into a powerful hammer. He was now an upgraded Titan Cameraman. That's not fair! The Titan lifted his hammer and smashed it into the ground, sending me flying into the sky with a massive shockwave. On days 122 through 124, I landed inside of an area surrounded by boiling hot lava. Thanks to my tough tank exterior, I survived the fall damage, but I was left with extremely low health. I have to tread carefully. Just then, I spotted the upgraded Titan Cameraman flying overhead in the distance. He's coming to finish me off! I have to get out of here! The gap in the lava surrounding me was too big for me to jump, and there wasn't enough time to build a bridge, so I had to come up with something else. Fire! I brute forced my way through and unloaded my weapons on the terrain around me. Once the dust settled, the rubble filled the gap, forming a makeshift bridge. I sped across the bridge and ran for my life as the upgraded Titan flew in closer.
You're not escaping.
On days 125 through 126, I sped through the trees and mountains to avoid any attacks the upgraded Titan Cameraman might throw at me. I looked behind me and noticed the massive hammer he was wielding. If I get hit by that thing, I'm toast! I couldn't keep up the pace and I was beginning to slow down. I thought this was the end until I heard a familiar voice.
Incoming!
I looked up and spotted a helicopter Skibidi from back in day 1 flying to aid me in battle. They used a special attack that managed to stun the Titan temporarily.
Follow me, quick!
I did as they said and zoomed off to the Skibidi toilet, leaving the Titan clueless as to where I went. Once we were far enough away, we found a good spot to hide. Thanks for saving me back there. What's your name, soldier? Where are the others?
I'm Chopper, sir. The other toilets are still trapped in a cameraman prison. I was the only one who escaped.
Take me there. We need to save our friends. On days 127 through 129, I followed my Skibidi friend until we arrived at a heavily secured prison floating in the sky. It was crawling with cameraman guards.
How are we gonna get in there?
You stay behind. They'll be looking for helicopter toilets. I got this. Not wanting to put any more of my Skibidi allies at risk of being captured, I continued into the mission alone. I made the slow climb up the massive tether attached to the aerial prison. After reaching the top, I began stealthing through the facility, looking for any of my captured friends. Due to my larger tank size, it was a bit more difficult to avoid the cameraman guards. After having a few close calls, I managed to find the entrance to the prison cells, but it was being guarded. I waited for the guard blocking my way to move along and then rushed in. Once inside, I noticed there were loads of cages with toilets trapped within them. Don't worry guys, your commander has arrived. I tried to open one of the cages, but when I did, alarms began to blare. That's not good. The wall of the cell room blasted open, and an army of tank cameramen was revealed on the other side.
Intruder!
On days 130 through 133, I was getting swarmed by a horde of tank cameramen. Thanks to my hardened exterior, this fight was fair game, but their numbers were quickly becoming overwhelming. I fired a barrage of rockets onto the camera tanks and quickly drove into the room. My tank tread screaming as I ducked and dodged a hailstorm of machine gun fire that the camera toilets fired from every direction. I did my best to not get shot, but their sheer numbers made it easy for them to maneuver around me and block my path. Lucky for me, my hardened porcelain tank exterior deflected a lot of the bullets' damage as I swung my mighty plunger to push past their troops. Some of them were equipped with flamethrowers, and pretty soon, the whole room was lit on fire. I did my best to dodge the fire, and fought them off with my laser and machine guns. As I began to fire my own munitions back at my enemies, one by one, they started to fall. Unfortunately, the rate at which I was taking them out wasn't fast enough. I started shooting more rockets focused on the crowd to give me some room to breathe. My armor was tough, but I was beginning to see that the staggering number of enemies I had to face was too much for me. I need backup! Feeling like it was over, I looked around to see if I could change the fate of this fight. I quickly spotted a control panel and rushed over to it. Not knowing what it would do, I began blasting the panel with my weapons, breaking it completely. Luckily for me, the prison cell gates began to open, freeing my Skibidi Toilet allies. Attack my brothers! We all sang our Skibidi Toilet song, and together we faced off against the cameraman tank forces. My toilet brothers dived into the flames, surrounding each camera tank one by one and overwhelming them. With the tanks distracted by my allies, I took the opportunity to open fire all my strongest attacks on the camera tanks, dwindling their numbers fast. Once we had the edge, I prioritized the mission over victory, and we retreated. Let's go, men! No other toilets are dying today! We ran out and managed to escape the clutches of the cameraman prison. On days 134 through 136, my crew and I ran from the prison and reunited with Chopper. They won't be far behind us. We all showed up on their camera feeds so they'll know where we are. We have to make ourselves some cover. Me and all my fellow toilets traveled to the wilderness to find a safe area. We needed somewhere away from the city to call our base of operations for the resistance. When we found a spot, we quickly dug a hole in the ground to hide in. Seconds after we all jumped in, I heard the sound of mechanical treads and knew the cameramen were coming. Everyone stay silent! We all were quiet as they passed, and thankfully went undetected for now. Phew! That was close. Now we got busy constructing and fortifying a new base. Something that would strike fear in any cameraman that saw it. A giant tank toilet, reinforced with armor just as tough as my own. Inside, we made a space for my soldiers to rest and my scientists to experiment. I made a farm to feed my army and a room for myself equipped with a custom toilet bed. Finally, we added a war room to discuss our plans to defeat the cameraman forces. Even with our numbers regrowing, how are we supposed to stand a chance against these guys?
Actually, I think I have an idea.
Chopper explained to me that all the Titans have special electronics and parts in them, and if I can beat the Titans, he can use their parts to upgrade me. Then I know exactly what I need to do. Suddenly, one of my men ran up in a panic.
The Titan Cameraman is getting close to our base. We need you, Commander.
Convenient. Alright men, let's head out. On days 137 through 140, I charged my men towards the location of the Titan Cameraman. The Titan was blasting our buildings, looking everywhere for any signs of our army.
Come out, Skibidi Toilets. I know you're around here somewhere.
Right behind you, big guy! We charged into battle, briefly catching the Titan off guard. The toilets wailed on him and tried to knock him over, but after regaining his senses, he blasted back with his most powerful attacks. We were in a real fight. His laser and rockets ripped through our forces as we chanted our Skibidi war cry. I put some distance between me and the enraged Titan and took out my open laser gun. Firing much smaller beams of energy up at the Titan, I still managed to push it back some. It lashed out at my forces in response, sending toilets flying, but they quickly regrouped. I rallied the troops as they fearlessly charged back into battle. Their porcelain bodies cracked, but not yet broken. The camera Titan roamed the battlefield, firing its various powers down on us and engulfing the city corner in a sea of flames. I fired my heavy rocket attacks to deal some serious damage to the Titan for the first time in this battle. With the fire, I had to constantly eat steak to keep my health up, but I didn't hesitate to run into the fray with my men, attacking the Titan's feet with my plunger. I then sprayed my machine gun at the camera head of the Titan and got its attention. He fired his laser and swung his hammer, now focused at me, giving my men some time to regroup. It wasn't long before the Skibidi army attacked again in full force. With my growing army overwhelming him, it seemed like we had the upper hand. Unfortunately, the Titan had one more trick up his sleeve.
Enough!
With a massive strike, the Titan brought his hammer down and sent me flying. I landed outside of the city, completely separated from my army, and the Titan Cameraman landed across from me.
This fight is between you and me.
On days 141 through 143, I was face to face with the Titan Cameraman with no army to back me up. Both of us were weak, but I had to win this for the sake of toilet kind. I charged the Titan across the narrow top of the mountaintop. I gave him everything I had, blasting rockets and swinging my plunger, but he brought his giant hammer down, cracking against the top of the mountain and sending me tumbling down its side. I quickly regained my bearings and ran further down into the woods below, switching to my laser and machine guns and firing at the Titan above me. I ducked past the trees as the camera Titan used its flamethrower and lasers to set the forest ablaze. Explosions went off all around me as I retreated to the river before turning back to fire a barrage of rockets. The Titan marched through them undeterred, heading straight for me. My armor may have been tough, but I had to be smart if I didn't want to get swept away in the Titan Cameraman's firepower. I tried to get my health back up by eating as I crossed the river. I tried to maintain my distance from it as I used my laser gun. He fired his own and explosions went off everywhere as the beams collided. I knew if I was going to finish this once and for all, I would need to get the high ground. I went into top gear and sped back to the mountain where this fight started. I was almost there, but to my horror, the Titan Cameraman flew past me, cutting me off. The fight was close, and I was low on health, but I heard my men calling out below. They had followed me here, and they were cheering.
Max! Max! Max!
The chant of my army gave me strength, and I defeated the Titan with one last flurry of plunger hits. After the massive cameraman fell, he dropped the Titan part that I needed. I picked it up and instantly felt its power as it transformed me into a Titan Skibidi Toilet. I now had 10 additional hearts, a missile cannon arm, and super strong punches. Whoa! Now this is more like it! As I celebrated, the sound of my army cheering was drowned out by a different, much louder sound. As I looked over the horizon, I saw and heard an approaching horde of Speakermen! Everyone, run! On days 144 through 146, I fought off the incoming horde of speaker goons as my army bolted back to the base. The Speakerman horde quickly surrounded me from every angle. They tried to use their numbers to overwhelm me, attacking me from every direction. Even with their numbers, the regular Speakerman didn't hurt much, but the larger Speakerman's blows were much heavier. Luckily for me, my new Titan form could take a beating. I swung my mighty fist, causing explosions in the crowd. After they were thrown back, I would then use my missiles to devastate their forces. Still, they were relentless, swarming back every time I threw them away. Fortunately, their numbers meant nothing now that I could fly. I launched up and landed on a nearby overpass. I rained down missiles as they were unable to hit me. The Speakerman started to fall one by one until suddenly they changed their tactics. Retreating back to gain some distance, they began to fire booming sound waves at me. My head was sent spinning as I was struck from every direction. One or two sound blasts were okay, but when they grouped up, it was unbearable. I fired my missiles wildly to disperse their forces. As the crowd thinned and pulled apart, I charged in close to finish the stragglers with my powerful punches. I knew I had to match their numbers with sheer firepower. I unleashed everything I had, including my laser and my machine gun on them. I was unstoppable! Yeah, take that! I was making quick work of the speakers until I spotted the Titan Speakerman flying overhead. Not this guy! They touched down right in front of me. It was impossible to get away in time.
Your wrath ends here, Skibidi Toilet.
Without hesitation, he blasted me with a huge sonic boom attack. The sound made my ears ring like crazy, and I was left paralyzed by its intensity. Ah! My head! I can't hold on! The next thing I knew, everything went black. On days 147 through 150, I woke up confined in a cage in some sort of facility. Huh? Where am I? Wait, TV woman? The TV woman was standing in front of me on the other side of the bars.
At last, we've apprehended you. You won't be getting any stronger now.
She detached her head, which landed on top of mine and sent me into a vision. I was standing in a field as a normal Skibidi toilet, with all my Skibidi allies around me singing merrily. Everyone seemed really happy. Out of nowhere, the TV woman appeared, but she was giant.
Yes, this is it.
She shined her screen onto all of us, setting us ablaze and killing everyone. No!
Submit already! Your resistance is futile.
No! I refuse! You can't fool me! I know this is all in my head! Through sheer willpower, I grew back into a Titan even larger than TV Woman and clobbered her. The moment she reeled back, I snapped back into reality. The TV Woman's head flew off of me and back to herself.
Looks like I'll have to do this the hard way.
She left angrily, and after her, the Mecha Cameraman came in.
Eliminate threat.
On days 151 to 152, the Mecha Cameraman readied his weapons. There was no way I was gonna get out of this one alive. It had to be the end.
Stay away from him.
It was Chopper, and he had arrived just in time. He buzzed around the Mecha Cameraman, buying me the seconds I needed. Quickly, I broke out of the cage. Let's go! The two of us made a run for it.
Eliminate! Eliminate!
Behind us, the Mecha Cameraman locked onto me from afar and fired his cannons. No! Chopper intercepted the attack, taking incredible damage in my stead. Chopper! No!
I'm okay. Let's keep moving.
We kept running until finally we escaped all the way back to our base. Chopper, are you okay?
I don't have much time. Please, find the nano repair pod just north of here. Without it, I'll be done for.
You got it! I didn't have a moment to waste. As fast as I could, I took to the skies. Between days 153 and 155, I made my way northward and found a cameraman weapons facility waiting for me. This must be the place. I had better hurry though. Chopper's running out of time. I chose to stealth around the facility. But stealth will only get you so far when you're a massive Skibidi Titan. If only there's a way to get smaller. I tried my best to evade the patrols of the cameraman tanks by ducking behind buildings as they moved around the facility. Finally, I spotted the item surrounded by barricades and lasers. There it is! I'm getting so close! I just need to stay
Hey, Skibidi Titan, 10 o'clock.
hidden.
Skibidi Titan detected. Engaging.
It was the beginning of days 156 to 158 that the host of Tank Cameramen descended upon me. Come on! Can't I ever catch a break? The tanks were just as strong as before, but in my Titan form, I was able to take them. Now it's an even fight! In the midst of the unending barrage of bullets from the enemy, I responded in kind by launching ammunition of my own, firing rockets that demonstrated my overwhelming firepower. Realizing they were outmatched, the cameramen became increasingly desperate, rushing me in a coordinated attempt to overpower me. Stepping over the compact tanks who could do little to stop me, I employed a lethal combination of laser precision and machine gun fury to thin their ranks. As bullets sliced through the air, I gracefully ascended to the skies, evading the most potent threats. I encountered more tanks lying in the wait. They ambushed me with a barrage of bullets, forcing me back to the ground below. As I landed in the trenches, the relentless tanks surged forward once again, only to be met with my resolute counterattacks, a series of monumental punches that sent them scattering. Despite my strength as a Skibidi Titan, I couldn't defeat them all. There's too many! Time for a change of plans! I rushed through the barricade and grabbed the upgrade for Chopper and promptly took to the skies. The Tank Cameramen fired so many projectiles at me, I thought they might empty their weapon systems.
Titan Speakerman, follow him.
Emerging from the facility, the Titan Speakerman soared into the air, hurtling towards me. I needed to get this upgrade to Chopper as soon as possible, but I knew that I'd be leading the Speakerman right to my base. I'm gonna have to be smart about this. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a rogue speaker spider walking in a different direction. I followed them to see where they led, outpacing the Titan Speakerman. On days 159 through 161, I trailed the Speaker Spider to another massive facility. Deep inside, I spotted some sort of device sitting on a pedestal. What's that? Is it something I can use to my advantage? I mean, it must be important, right? Having learned my lesson from earlier, I waited patiently for the Speaker Spider to leave. When the coast was clear, I swiped it from its pedestal. Now that I had it, I decided to fiddle around with it. Now just what do you do, huh? I activated the device and suddenly shrank down to a fifth of my size. Whoa! Thinking quickly, I used my reduced size to my advantage and hid in a small nook. To my horror, the Titan Speakerman had caught up with me and began to search the area.
I know you're in here, Toilet. Come out so I can flush you. Make it easier on both of us.
He spent a good amount of time searching, but thanks to my small size, he lost me for now. I need to get back to Chopper before it's too late. On days 162 through 164, I returned to the base and used the device to return to normal size again. I quickly went and fixed Chopper up before he succumbed to the damage.
Sir, while I was hurt, I could barely stay awake. But while I was asleep, I had a dream.
What kind of dream?
Just give me a minute. You'll see.
I followed Chopper outside and he started building something. Once he was finished, it looked like some kind of massive signal tower. Just then, we began to hear the loud music of the Speakerman army approaching.
I hope this works.
He started up the signal tower, and as the speakers came up over the hill, their loud music turned into the Skibidi song.
Ah! Oh, God! I'm too old for this Gen Alpha garbage!
They all freaked out and started dying one by one. Great work, Chopper!
Not so fast, little flea.
The Titan Speakerman descended from the skies and touched down in front of us.
The signal tower! It has no effect on him?
Chopper, run! I got this!
But
just go! On days 165 through 168, it was a one-on-one fight between me and the Titan Speakerman. Wasting no time, I made the first attack. Without another word, I charged at the gargantuan foe, not granting him even a moment of respite as I immediately swung my mighty mechanical fists in his direction. With a ferocious clang from my massive metal hands, I made contact with a direct, close-range hit. As I pummeled relentlessly into the Titan, he attempted to retaliate with a melee attack of his own, but his close-range abilities were no match for my own. This gave me a false impression that this battle would be a breeze, but that was shattered as the foe unleashed a blinding laser directly in front of me. The beam soared in the air at a rapid speed before hitting me point blank and sending me reeling back. That laser served as a firing gun for the beginning of our fierce duel. Engulfed in a storm of projectiles, we traded fiery barrages of weaponry. Rockets thundered from my arsenal, and as they rained down upon him, I took to the skies in an attempt to evade his reciprocative attacks. Taking me by surprise, the fiend unleashed waves of devastating sonic booms, leaving me spiraling. It was then that I recognized the threat to my comrades, so I tactically retreated away from my base, ensuring their safety amidst the impending chaos. But the Speakerman followed close behind. Across the desolation of the battleground, we clashed fiercely, our weaponry igniting fires that consumed the landscape. With each blow, the Titan's life force waned, but mine was not faring much better. I needed to finish the fight once and for all, so I lured the Speakerman to the very hill his men had perished upon. There, the battle continued with increased vigor. Amidst a symphony of exchange attacks, our Titan powers reverberated for miles. I summoned my last reserves of strength and, catching the foe by surprise, delivered a final blow onto the enemy. With the opening I created, I managed to overpower the Titan Speakerman. Finally, the Goliath came crashing down. After I defeated the Titan Speakerman, I saw another upgrade. I used it to transform into a new form. I now had a plunger sword arm and 5 more hearts. I'm awesome! Who else wants to take me on? Suddenly, the Titan Mecha Cameraman came flying down out of nowhere.
I do.
On days 169 to 171, I was face to face with the Titan Mecha Cameraman. He was intimidating to say the least, with his massive height towering over me.
Your little resistance is about to be phased out.
Yeah, right. Look how powerful I've become. I can take on anything, including you and any cameraman that gets in my way.
Or so you thought. How do you think you got here in the first place? This was my plan all along, to let you grow stronger, so you would get overconfident and die.
You're joking if you think you're gonna defeat me. Eager to prove him wrong, I charged in enthusiastically at the gargantuan cameraman. As the two of us clashed, we exchanged a flurry of monumental blows, each strike resonating with undeniable force. Quickly, the truth became apparent. His assaults were inflicting colossal damage to me, and I couldn't withstand them for much longer. Determined to emerge victorious, I shifted strategies and attempted to outmaneuver my larger adversary, employing a bombardment of missiles and laser gunfire as I nimbly circled around him in the air. Yet, it became increasingly more apparent that my efforts were no match for his might. In fact, I was barely penetrating his defenses. I wasn't hurting the cameraman. I was hardly even tickling him. Unleashing the full extent of my power, I hurled every resource in my arsenal his way. But to my dismay, my health continued to dwindle. Even in this incredible form, I couldn't take them out. I thought to myself, maybe I wasn't prepared for this fight.
Just give up. You don't stand a chance.
I'll never back down, and I'll never give up. I was hit with a large attack and knocked down to half a heart. I thought it was the end of me. Just then, I thought of a plan. I shrunk my size right before the mecha could kill me and was practically invisible since he was so large. You can't see me! The mecha cameraman blasted everywhere, but he couldn't get a direct hit onto me.
Run while you can. I'll hunt you down and dismember you myself.
With immense frustration, the mecha cameraman left the area. On days 172 through 174, I regrouped with Chopper and the rest of my men. Okay, any ideas on how to beat this guy?
You're probably gonna need another upgrade. Luckily, we've gathered some intel on where another Titan is.
Chopper handed me a map to a TV men base not far from here. I thanked him and set out to find it. When I arrived, I found that the TV base was also a train station. I have to be sneaky if I want to avoid a dangerous fight. I shrunk myself down so I wouldn't be spotted by the TVs as I stealthily maneuvered around their base. I stayed close to the walls, and when guards came towards my direction, I hid underneath a nearby train car.
Hey, did you see something just now? Nope, just the rats.
Phew! That was a close one. Finally, I made it into a broadcasting room that was lined wall to wall with screens. The TV men had access to every camera feed in the city and were watching everything. I looked through all the screens and spotted a strange looking one. Wait, that's…
Found you, rat.
The roof exploded and revealed the Titan I was looking for, the Cinema Man. On day 175 through 176, the Cinema Man towered over me in a trap laid by the TV woman.
Directive: eliminate all Skibidi Toilets.
You must be the newest Titan. Time to take you down.
Target acquired.
On the rooftop of the train station, we lunged towards each other, clashing with an immense force. As our battle commenced, rockets, beams of lasers, and streams of fire flew around us, causing great collateral damage to the site, reducing it to rubble. With all of the power I could muster, I released a mighty swing in my plunger, making direct contact with the foe. He retaliated with his own close-range attack, rapidly firing a flurry of punches towards me. But despite his efforts, I was still able to maintain the upper hand, landing blow after blow consecutively. However, my advantage wouldn't last for long, as the Cinema Man's screens suddenly flashed bright red. The screen's image sent me reeling in pain, and I stumbled back. Now that there was some distance between us, I took to the skies in an attempt to evade and outmaneuver the foe. However, even in the skies, I wasn't safe from the Cinema Man's wrath. Lasers and rockets whizzed by me, soaring through the air and exploding all across the city as the two of us Titans clashed once more. Swooping in overhead, I unleashed a series of flyby hits on the adversary with my plunger. After some time, we met face to face again, this time on top of an overpass. Our fierce battle raged on. We unleashed the full extent of our powers onto each other, utilizing our heavy melee attacks and launching our massive firepower point blank at one another. Once more, the foe's screen became aglow with red, forcing me to recoil. I could withhold my rage no longer, and as I pushed back, it all came exploding out of me in the form of my new ability. My sheer anger and rage transformed into sound waves and blasted back against the Cinema Man. It was apparent that I had absorbed more from the Titan than I had realized. Putting some distance between the two of us, I bombarded the Cinema Man with an unrelenting wave of back-to-back sonic booms. Thanks to my upgrades and battle experience, I was strong enough to rival the Titan. The fight was neck and neck, and it was beginning to look like I could win. Just then, I spotted a camera woman down below.
Surprise!
The camera woman aimed a crazy-looking weapon at me and fired, doing loads of damage. I couldn't withstand the damage, and before I knew it, I blacked out. On days 177 through 178, I woke up in a cage over a pit of boiling lava.
Looks like you're finally awake.
What are you gonna do to me?
What we should do to all Skibidi Toilets like you. Melt you down to scrap.
No! No way! I'm out of here! I quickly shrunk down and slipped through the bars before she could open the bottom of the cage into the lava. I tried to take to the skies, but she locked onto me with her weapon.
Oh no, you don't.
Despite my size, she hit me with a direct attack and sent me plummeting to the ground. The impact sent me back to my normal size, and the camerawoman walked up to me, weapon aimed.
Any last words?
Leave him alone!
To my surprise, Chopper had come to aid me with the rest of my army. The camerawoman shot at my forces but couldn't keep up with their numbers and had to retreat. I used their distraction to make a quick escape. On days 179 to 180, I regrouped with Chopper and the remnants of my forces. Where are the others?
While you escaped, they were all abducted by the enemy.
What? No! We have to save them! I started to run off, but Chopper stopped me.
Wait, not yet. It would be foolish to run in blindly.
Fine. Then what do you recommend?
I found the whereabouts of another upgrade. You get it first, then we can infiltrate the base and save them.
Chopper handed me the coordinates and I set off. They'd led me straight to an amusement park. Things seemed to be too quiet though. I don't see any upgrades around here. I heard a sound behind me, and when I rolled around, I spotted a horde of camera toilets coming right at me. Those monsters! Look what they did to my men! I braced myself for the incoming clash. On days 181 to 182, I was attacked by the camera toilets. No! This is terrible! I didn't want to hurt them, but I had no choice. They were vicious and obviously didn't remember me. The friends I knew were gone. Fine! Take this! I unleashed a storm of rockets that rained down onto the wave of enemies, exploding on impact. As I picked off the last few mindless camera toilets that survived the blast, reinforcements came charging at me from across the bridge. The mental toll of slaughtering my own man was weighing heavy on me, but I couldn't linger on the feeling for too long. Unloading my gun, bullets sprayed all around me, finishing off the last remaining stragglers. With a heavy heart, I took out the last toilet abomination. I'm sorry, everyone. I'll save the rest of you. I promise. The toilets had dropped something upon death. It was the upgrade I was looking for. Hopefully this does the trick. I used the upgrade and a whole arsenal of weapons appeared in my inventory. These would pack a punch. Also, my armor became thicker and stronger. Now time to save the remainder of my army. On days 183 to 184, I arrived back at the TV station where the TV men were busy rebuilding from the rubble. At the center of the construction, they had all of my army trapped. Let's wreak some havoc! I flew in and started wrecking the place again, using my new power to destroy everything they were building.
It's the Titan! Get him!
The TV men started to fire back at me. Soaring in at full speed, I unleashed a torrent of rockets aimed directly at the structures the adversaries were stationed on. As the projectiles found their mark, they unleashed a massive explosion, reducing the constructions beneath the foes to debris and sending the enemies hurtling to the ground below. But their retaliation was swift. The TV men began to unleash a hail of gunfire aimed in my direction. However, my arsenal would prove far superior. With the relentless chatter of my minigun, the calculated precision of my sniper, and the explosive punctuation of my rocket launcher, shotgun, and grenade launcher, the foes didn't stand a chance. But there were still way too many TV men. There was only one solution here. Bombs away! I blasted open the cages and set my men free.
Charge!
My men poured out of their cages to fight the TVs for me. As chaos ensued, I noticed a familiar shape in the distance. It was the Cinema Man.
We have these guys, sir. Go for the Cinema Man.
Thanks, everyone! With my forces covering the fight here, I left them to go and confront the Titan. On days 185 through 186, I charged toward the Cinema Man to take him down once and for all. The two of us began duking it out on the rooftops of the city skyscrapers. With my trusty plunger and his swift punches, we engaged in an epic duel of fisticuffs. As I swung my weapon down onto the enemy, he recoiled back and unleashed a barrage of flames at me in my direction. To evade his blasts, I maneuvered to the edge of the city alongside the water. There, I released my arsenal of weaponry, encompassing a missile launcher for long-range devastation, a shotgun for close-quarters impact, a precision sniper for unparalleled accuracy, and I emitted an ear-piercing sonic blast. As the foe was sent reeling back from my screech, I seized the opportunity to put some distance between us. I launched up to the skies and took a moment to eat, regaining some of my lost health. Having the aerial advantage, I fired at him from above. Despite my upper hand, the enemy was still as tough as ever. I needed to lure him into a trap. Flying forward, I led him onto the deck of a docked boat. There, I unleashed my rockets once more, forcing the foe to choose between facing a watery demise by jumping in the ocean below, or choosing to remain on the ship and burning to a crisp. Landing atop the vessel, I prepared the final blow, but as a last-ditch effort, the Fiend's screen lit up red in self-defense. Nevertheless, his futile resistance was powerless to stop me, as I unleashed my bazooka, obliterating him in a resounding blast. Once the Titan had fallen, he dropped an upgrade that I quickly picked up, and I immediately gained 5 more hearts and an upgraded version of my laser beam. Its power was now so focused, it cut through blocks like nothing. This is incredible! Suddenly, the Mecha Cameraman arrived once again.
You may have defeated Cinema Man, but I still have the might of my entire army.
The area began to flood in with his cameraman tank army, completely overwhelming me with his forces. There was no way I could take on another Titan and an enemy fleet of this size. My only option was to retreat. I fled the area as the Mecha Cameraman and his camera army fired in my direction. On days 187 through 188, I managed to arrive back at my base with the remainder of my army to discuss our next course of action. Even with this upgrade, their numbers are overwhelming. How are we supposed to win this war?
We have to get some stronger allies of our own, and I think I know just the people who can help.
Chopper then handed me a list of names of different Skibidi toilets that could potentially join our cause. The modded Skibidi, saw blade Skibidi, jetpack Skibidi, and armored Skibidi toilets. What do I do with the list of names?
These are the names of the 4 legendary Skibidi toilets. They were captured by the enemy forces, and if we can recruit them, we might stand a chance against their cameraman tanks.
Chopper went on to explain where I could find these various Skibidi toilets and how each of them can aid us in this fight against our enemies. Then what are we waiting for? Time to get searching! I exited my base and took to the skies in search of my first ally to save. On days 189 and 190, I flew through the skies until I spotted a floating sky base, like the prison I had been to earlier. I snuck inside and discovered a jetpack Skibidi toilet trapped in some kind of special prison cell. There's the first legendary toilet!
As help finally arrived.
You know it! Stand back! I used my rockets to blast open the cage, freeing the jetpack Skibidi, but the explosion set off an alarm and camera tanks rushed in to stop us. I was about to spring into action when the jetpack Skibidi stepped forward and started melting them all down with his laser eyes.
Don't worry, I've got this. Go save the others.
Okay, I'll see you soon! I flew away from the base, but I was hit by a well-placed rocket. My jetpack sputtered and failed, and I plummeted towards the Earth. On days 191 and 192, I crash-landed into the ocean. As I was looking around to see where I was, I saw the Sawblade Skibidi trapped in a water-top camera base. Well, it looks like they brought me right to the next toilet. I flew up to free the Sawblade Skibidi from his prison.
At last, the toilets will rise up again. Thanks, mate. Let me fix that jetpack for you.
The Sawblade Skibidi repaired the boosters on my jetpack and told me where I could find the modded Skibidi. As he was making some final adjustments, a bunch of guards came rushing in. I was about to fight them off when he stopped me.
Don't worry, I've got this.
The Sawblade Skibidi zipped around the room, making short work of all the guards. They didn't stand a chance.
Keep moving, I'll meet you at the base.
On days 193 and 194, I continued my journey, searching for the remaining legendary Skibidi toilets. Following what the Sawblade Skibidi toilet said, I came across a volcano and took a look inside. The modded Skibidi was inside, locked in a cage that was surrounded by lava. I rushed in to save him, but before I could get too close, he yelled out to me.
Look out!
Suddenly, the camera woman jumped out from behind a rock and ambushed me.
Not so fast.
Without another word, she promptly unleashed a barrage of lasers that were able to damage me even despite my armor. In response, I swiftly utilized my arsenal of weaponry and returned fire. Despite my best efforts, the camerawoman managed to deftly navigate the volcanic terrain, nimbly dodging all of my attacks, even evading my most agile missiles. Finally having had enough of this cat and mouse game, I struck back with my upgraded laser, obliterating her and reducing the ground beneath her to nothing but rubble. After I defeated Camerawoman, I was able to finally free the modded Skibidi from his cage.
Thanks, brother, but we don't have much time. I overheard the camerawoman saying the armored Skibidi is about to get executed.
Not on my watch! On days 195 and 196, I traveled to the final location to find and save the captured armored Skibidi from the clutches of the cameramen. After I arrived, I explored the area cautiously, before finding the armored Skibidi in a massive cage. Commander? I looked closer and realized it was a different armored Skibidi, much larger than my fallen commander. The TV woman was in front of his cage. She was telling him her master plan. I shrank down and crept in close to listen.
You may kill me here, but you will never win this war.
See, that's where you're wrong. We've already begun plans for unleashing the final attack on the toilets. In 5 days, the Mecha Cameraman will strike down your Titan toilet leader, winning the war for the cameras.
You'll never get away with this.
Oh, we already have.
Don't speak so soon. I took the TV woman by surprise and jumped from my hiding spot ready to fight. Before I could do anything, she acted fast and flashed her screen, lighting me on fire. My shrinking device was caught in the crossfire and began to malfunction. I couldn't revert to my Titan form. I wasn't about to let that stop me though. If I couldn't fight as a Titan, my mini form would have to do. As I flew at her to fight back, she detached her head and ran out of reach of my melee attacks, so I pulled out my guns and started to shoot. TV Woman had some tricks up her sleeve as well. She fired back with blinding TV flashes that lit me on fire or electrocuted me, as well as sprayed confusing rays of stars at me that darkened my vision, blinding me. It was hard to fight in that state, but I was determined to win, and eventually I realized that it would be a lot easier to attack her main body. With the help of my trusty bazooka, I took aim and sent her body flying. Even though I had gotten the upper hand in our fight, the TV Woman reattached her head and fled before I could defeat her.
You're a fool if you think you can stop us.
After she left, my shrinking device started working again. I rushed over to the armored Skibidi and released him from his cage. Come on, let's go regroup with the others. We have to prepare for the final battle. On days 197 and 198, the armored Skibidi and I returned to our resistance base and met up with all of our troops. They would need protection for the upcoming battle against the cameramen. I made helmets, chest armor, leggings, and boots for all of my allies. I wanted to make sure they'd be well protected and survive the onslaught. I handed out swords, guns, and other weapons as well as food so we'd be ready for anything. With all the preparations made, I rallied the troops so I could give a speech before the attack. My soldiers looked up at me, and I knew they were eager to take the fight to the cameraman. Attention Skibidi Toilets! The camera army is planning to strike me down in a matter of days and end the war. We cannot allow this to happen. I have managed to free all 4 of the legendary toilets, so we have the upper hand. We will strike with an army much more powerful than before. Stand with me, and we will win this war for Skibidi Toilet kind! The Skibidi Toilet Army cheered as I finished my speech, and I knew they were ready to take on the enemy. With courage burning in our hearts, we set off towards the battlefield. On day 199, my toilet army stormed towards the city, ready to take on the enemy. When we arrived, the TV woman was already waiting for us, surrounded by her goons.
Well, look who finally decided to show up. Your journey ends here, dirty toilets.
I think you're sorely mistaken, TV woman. My army is much stronger than ever before, and so am I.
Even with the legendary toilets on your side, you're no match for our might. Charge!
Yeah! My army bravely charged into battle, ready for anything that they could throw at us. Chaos erupted as the 2 armies clashed with monumental force. Amidst the destruction, I soared through the sky, releasing a barrage of rockets overhead of the enemy forces and unleashing laser fire. The colossal armored Skibidi Toilet began spinning rapidly, transforming into a whirling tornado which hurled adversaries skyward. Meanwhile, the saw-blade Skibidi Toilet swiftly darted through enemy ranks. In the heat of battle, the modded Skibidi Toilet took advantage of his proximity to the ground to methodically execute precise melee attacks, taking the foes out one by one with unrivaled precision. In the air, the jetpack Skibidi Toilet's eyes lit ablaze with lasers, slicing through the opposing army from above. He fired his gun, the blast echoing through the battlefield. Our armies were looking evenly matched, when suddenly I spotted the Mecha Cameraman approaching in the distance. I needed to stop him before he reached my army.
Continue ahead, sir. We can handle things back here.
Good work, soldier! With that, I turned away from my army and went to confront the Mecha Cameraman. On day 200, I stopped the Mecha Cameraman before he could reach the battlefield. Your fight is not with them. This is between you and me!
So be it!
The Mecha Cameraman flew at me, and the fight began. He began by blasting scorching flames directly in my face, sending me staggering back off of the building's edge. Regaining my composure, I retaliated with a swing of my mighty fist, but the Mecha Cameraman towered over me, seemingly unfazed by the blow. As the 2 of us circled in deadly combat, he unleashed incredibly powerful missiles at me with explosions so great that left craters in their wake, and intense lasers that burned through my remaining hearts. I fired back with all the weapons in my arsenal, but they barely even seemed to scratch him. Utilizing my upgraded missile, I unleashed my strongest attack, but he even managed to tank through that. In turn, he began to hit me with his own new and improved abilities, including a jolting static shock and disorienting high-pitched frequency assault that sent me dazed and confused. Our fight spilled into the surrounding areas. Bombs and lasers went flying everywhere as we flew around each other in a deadly dogfight amongst the top of the nuclear reactor. My hearts were constantly diminishing and I tried desperately to keep them up by eating, but I knew this song and dance couldn't last forever. He was by far the toughest foe I had ever faced, and all of his upgrades made him even tougher. But I couldn't let my men down after everything we had been through. I charged in and hit him with one final huge blow. I blasted a laser so concentrated and prolonged, it left a massive crater and slowly burned away the Mecha Cameraman's armor till there was nothing left. He was defeated. I did it! I had survived the cameraman onslaught, and the Skibidi Toilets had won the war.